Hey there. We at Blue Wire just wanted to take a second to thank you for listening to this podcast. We know everything outside is pretty scary and uncertain, but we're committed to helping you get through your day by talking about the sports and teams that you love most. If you're looking for more great podcasts to distract you, check out BlueWirePods.com. Thanks for listening, enjoy the podcast, and stay safe.
Blue Wire.
Kirk Cousins, he's going to be a Minnesota Viking. This was the right call.
Cousins pressure, hit as he throws, going for Thielen. He's got it! Touchdown! Oh my Diggs! Stay up! Oh my God! 30! No way! Touchdown! It's a Minneapolis miracle!
All right, welcome in, everybody. Welcome to Bleeding Purple, a podcast about the Minnesota Vikings. We are part of the Blue Wire Network, and we are brought to you by BetOnline.ag. I'm your host, Adam Patrick, from thevikingage.com, and as always, I'm joined by Eric Strack from MinnesotaSportsFan.com. Just got one question for you, Eric. Are you a Bucks fan yet?
Wow. I guess if they weren't in the NFC, they would definitely be my second team, but being there in the NFC, it makes things a little bit more difficult. I don't like cheering for anybody in the NFC other than the Vikings, but having Tom Brady and Tyler Johnson, Antoine Winfield Jr., Gronk, it's a hard team not to root for if
Mike Evans.
Yeah, if you've enjoyed, there's a lot of people who hate Tom Brady, but if you're somebody who's enjoyed Tom Brady,
you can respect him.
Yeah, and you're a Gopher football fan, then yeah, it's going to be real tough not to root for Tampa Bay a little bit at least.
Which pick were you more mad about the Vikings? Which player were you more mad about the Vikings not landing? Because they could have had both, realistically, right?
Yeah, I mean, they could. I guess the letdown.
I'm talking about Antoine Winfield Jr. and Tyler Johnson, by the way, if you don't know.
With Winfield Jr., I kind of knew it wasn't going to happen when we took Gladney. There were people who still had some hope, but I wasn't one of those people. When we took Gladney, I was pretty sure it was over. So I would say that one is going to end up being most disappointing unless Gladney ends up blowing up. But I would say that one's going to hurt the most early on. But, well, actually, then again, I can't say that because Tyler Johnson slots in right now perfectly as the slot wide receiver between Evans and
Chris Godwin.
That's right. So between Evans and Godwin, he slots in perfectly into the slot, which we all know how much Tom Brady loves his slot receivers.
Mm-hmm.
So it wouldn't shock me if Tyler Johnson went off this year too. So I think it was the biggest mistake would have been Johnson as far as time frame. You could have gotten him in the 5th. We had 47 different picks that we could have gotten him with if we wanted, and we didn't take him. When you're with the Winfield miss, it's there's just a lot of talent up there, so it's kind of who you like more. Whereas the Tyler Johnson one, I wrote about it that morning. It just doesn't really make sense not to take him because you're already so far down the draft. How much Minnesota would love you just for picking him would be worth it in the 5th round. Like, if nothing else, even if he's a terrible fit, just picking him just for the nuance of picking somebody from Minnesota and how well loved he is here would be worth it with a 5th round pick to me. But so I guess for me, it's the biggest surprise would be Tyler Johnson, just because it would have been so easy just to take him in the 5th round.
Yeah, he went in the 5th round. When's the last time the Vikings drafted someone from Minnesota? Do you know? Hasn't been recently.
It hasn't been recently.
Because didn't Carl Eller go to Minnesota? Like, that was a long time ago. But I feel like they've probably drafted someone before that.
I don't know. I don't know if he. I don't know if he did go to Minnesota.
I think he did. But yeah, I can't. I'm sure there are.
I mean,
guys.
I don't know. And as far as drafted, like they've had some Minnesota players give him some good time. Hell, they had Todd Bauman from SCSU give him some good time.
Yep.
But I'm not sure about who they've drafted straight out of Minnesota.
Let's.
In this situation, it would have just made so much sense. And both were a position in need. So and Rick Spielman watched him more than anybody. That's the frustrating thing too, is like, and we can talk about this if we get into it a little bit later too, but it's like, you've got Tyler Johnson in the 5th. You've watched him his entire career. He put up massive numbers in a Power 5 conference. I think he was 2nd team, 3rd team All-American, something like that, in a power conference. You can get him in the 5th round. But Spielman essentially chose other 6th, 7th, and unrestricted free agent wide receivers, or not undrafted free agent wide receivers, over Tyler Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it was 2 7th-round picks over Tyler, like he could have traded one of his 6th and one of his 7th to move up in the 5th if he wanted to grab Tyler. Like there was just so many options, and instead he decided, and that's where we get into this whole thing about 15 picks, and is Rick Spielman just a pick hoarder compared to a genius? Because if you go and read what the experts say, he's a genius. The Vikings have been mentioned in the top of every single expert's draft.
Yeah, they have the highest cumulative grade or whatever.
Their letter rankings have all been off the charts and everything else.
Also, who cares about post-draft grades? They never.
I know.
Matter.
That's a whole conversation in itself. But let's talk about how many 6th, 7th, and
2010, by the way, is when the last time the Vikings drafted someone from Minnesota.
Oh, nice. Who was it?
Nate Triplett, linebacker.
Oh, interesting.
And then before that was 2000 when they drafted Tyrone Carter.
My TV just turned on and scared the crap out of me.
And Carl Eller did go to Minnesota.
Jeez, nice. That's a nice pickup by you. But yeah, for me, how many of these 7th, 6th undrafted rookies pan out? Like that's another thing that I wanted to prep for today and didn't have time for because quarantine and kids and everything else. But like I would like to go back in Rick Spielman's tenure and find out how many of the undrafted free agents, 7th and 6th round picks have panned out, because that's obviously his goal is volume, right? Get as many guys into the building as you possibly can, and then hope that some of them pan out, because you've got guys from the undrafted all the way down to the 1st round who pan out and who don't pan out. So let's find as many as we can that we like and get them all into our building and let the best man win, so to speak. But
I think this year might have been a little different because just of how everything's been with the pandemic, and then plus the Vikings having 30 spots to fill heading into the draft, and them not having a lot of cap space.
Yeah, but you have 30 spots to fill in a 90-man roster. That's going to be cut down to 50 effing people at some point. Like,
55. I think now the limit is.
That's what I just get so frustrated. Like, you can't tell me that there wasn't guys up in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round that you were like, I like that guy. But Rick didn't want to go get him. He essentially said, I'm going to take my chances with a 7th, 6th rounder. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. If you look at the history of the draft, you can't tell me that there haven't been more 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounders that have panned out than 6th, 7th, and undrafted.
There's got to be something. Yeah, there's got to be something. To it where they cost the least, so they have like the highest upside if they do well, and then if they do well, then they're not paying them a lot. So they save money on that, and they can use the money, elsewhere. But it's just, he loves the 7th round picks, and all you have to do is look at he can be like, look at Adam Thielen, he was undrafted. Look at Ifedi Odenigbo, he was a 7th round
Look
pick.
at Daniil Hunter. Look at where
yeah.
do you want me to point? What about Kendricks?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Brian O'Neill, all the second
over
round picks.
our team. There's 2nd, 3rd, and 4th rounders. You're gonna find an Adam Thielen out of every 100 guys might end up being half of what Adam Thielen is. But you can't find Adam Thielen one time and then just assume that 1 out of every 10 7th rounder undrafted guy is gonna turn into Adam Thielen. So we're just gonna get as many as we can. That just makes zero sense to me.
That's how it works, These guys are like, I did it once, so I can do it again. But real quick, we'll just go over who the Vikings drafted this weekend in the 2020 NFL Draft. They drafted 15 guys. They kicked off the first round and grabbed LSU wide receiver Justin Jefferson. Then they traded back and grabbed TCU cornerback Jeff Gladney. And they added former Boise State offensive tackle Ezra Cleveland. And in the 3rd round, they drafted Mississippi State cornerback Cameron Dantzler. And then they added 4 guys in the 4th round. South Carolina defensive end DJ Wanham. Baylor defensive tackle James Lynch. Oregon linebacker Troy Dye. And they added 2 guys in the 5th round. Jeez, I'm already exhausted going over these.
Yeah, let's...
We're halfway through. We're only halfway through.
All right. I'm trying to keep
Harrison Hand, cornerback from Temple, so their 3rd corner in the first 5 rounds. And then they drafted KJ Osborne out of Miami as a wide receiver. Their 2nd receiver in the draft. Also the same round, Tyler Johnson got drafted.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the 6th round, they added 2 more people, Blake Brandel, offensive tackle from Oregon State, and Josh Medalis from Michigan. He's a safety. And then in the 7th round, of course, the Vikings added 4 more guys because you needed 4 picks in the 7th round. Kenny Willix, you know how to pronounce that? From defensive end from Michigan State.
Yeah, if you don't know how to pronounce it, I don't know how to pronounce it.
He's a Big Ten guy, so I didn't know if you knew. This guy you should probably know, Nate Stanley, the Iowa quarterback.
I do know that guy.
Didn't really know why they drafted him because I didn't think there was anything impressive about him. But then again, they signed Sean Mannion. So and then Brian Cole, not 1 but 2 from Mississippi State. He's a safety, and they ended the draft by drafting Kyle Hinton, a offensive guard out of Division II Washburn, and today, they announced the signing of 12 undrafted
You're
free
not
agents.
going through each one of those, are you?
No, I won't do it. Okay. You can look it up if you want to. There's a couple names like Courtney Davis, Texas A&M receiver, and I think the most money they gave, guaranteed money to one of their undrafted free agents was Neville Clark, cornerback out of Central Florida. I think the most interesting one I found when I was doing all the research on these guys yesterday was one of the receivers. They got this receiver from Penn State, white receiver. Not that it matters, but Dan Chizinia or whatever, Lasagna, I don't know.
Lasagna, sure.
He's a former track star at Penn State, and he caught 3 passes at Penn State, and he signed.
Oh my god.
With the Vikings. Yeah, they had another tight end from Pitt who caught or North Carolina who caught 15 passes in 4 years. So I was like, wow, these are clearly just filling spots on the roster because you don't know who else is out there. So
yeah, all the experts.
That's a lot to take. It's a lot to take in. It's exhausting to talk about. Just to go over, it was exhausting to cover. So thank you, Rick Spielman. I felt like I just did a marathon on Saturday with the 11 selections he made. Please, they already have 12 picks, I think, for next year. So
only
apparently
one
I have to
7th rounder though. So that's
yeah, apparently I have to train for next year to get my body ready to cover the draft.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a pick that you're most excited about getting away from, the disappointment of not drafting Winfield and Tyler Johnson? Is there one that stands out to you? I think most people, say Jefferson, but is there any other that you're excited about?
Well, I'm excited about the first four. I'm excited for different reasons. I'm excited for Jefferson for kind of the same reason everybody else is. When you have a brand new wide receiver and you spent your first pick on him, you want to see what he can do. Is he going to be the next Laquan Treadwell?
And he can catch.
And he can catch, we've heard. So we've been told.
He had 111 catches last year, so I'm
impressive.
Pretty sure that's proof.
Yep. Yeah. So who is at my house at 8:40 p.m.?
Wow.
Seriously. Oh my gosh.
Uh-oh.
I'm not getting up to answer that. Anyways, where were we? Oh yeah, the first four picks. So I like Jefferson for the same reason everybody else. I'm excited. I want to see what he can do. Gladney and Dantzler, I am excited. Well, I'm really pulled in two different positions. They
got some swag.
Well,
right?
And I want Rick Spielman to be right because I want the Vikings to be good. But I can promise you that if he is wrong on either of these two corners, I will never, ever, ever, ever let him hear the end of it, because I will promise you, people can quote me on this, whatever, Antoine Winfield Jr. is a hit. The only way I see anybody it playing out any differently is if he gets injured and ends up, injuries end up ruining his career. But because of that, I'm interested in the two CB picks. And then we needed offensive line help in the worst way. So can Ezra Cleveland be any good? If he can, then great. If he can't, the season might be over before it even starts, to be honest.
Yeah, Alexander Madison obviously raves about Ezra Cleveland because they're teammates at Boise State. Very good athlete. I think a lot of people compared him to Brian O'Neill, who was a really good athlete coming out of Pitt. I'm just curious to see how to see how Cleveland maybe just is able to, if he's going to really actually be in the competition to be the starting left tackle this year or not, because of how everything is with the pandemic and not being able to practice in person and not really being able to do any of the normal OTA stuff. I'm worried about Riley Reif sticking there at left tackle. If I think a dark horse maybe for left tackle could be Brian O'Neill, because while he was at Pitt, I think his senior season he started at like 12 games at left tackle, so they could move him over to left tackle if they don't like Riley Reif or they don't think Ezra Cleveland is up to speed. But I like those. I'm kind of a little fan of KJ Osborne. I saw some clips of him, and he looks like he's a pretty good route runner. He gets good separation, and he could be helpful in the return game. And James Lynch is another intriguing guy because he can play multiple positions on the defensive line, and the Vikings love guys like that, either on the defensive line or on the offensive line, who are versatile. So those are some guys that I like. Is there anyone that maybe made you scratch your head and wonder why they made this pick or why they picked this person so early?
I think he did well enough in the earlier rounds, especially you kind of look at people who pay way closer attention than I do, are, like I said earlier, have been raving about everything that he did. So my head scratchers aren't necessarily there. My head scratchers are, why do we care about so many 6th and 7th round picks, and why are we valuing those 2 or 3 of those more than one in the middle rounds? So that would be my biggest question. The other one would just be, I guess I question the whole process in general, because right when the pick was made, right, and this is just the unknowns of the draft, but how heavily covered it is. You can't avoid these things because people watch tape and they go, oh, I really love that guy, I really love the way he plays, and then he gets to the league and he sucks, right? So like, it's just a way that not everybody can be good once they get here, but when these draft experts talk about them, it seems like everybody's gonna make it. But you look at DJ Wonnum and James Lynch.
Yep.
When those two picks were made, I saw multiple people on Twitter who follow the draft closer than I do, great picks, saying, I love those picks. And then I started seeing a lot of people say they hated those picks of Wonnum. And now, like, I'm looking now, and Wonnum and James Lynch on this grade scale from CBSSports.com has Jefferson Pick an A, Gladney a B, Ezra Cleveland A-, Dantzler a B+, and then Wonnum C-, James Lynch C-, and then Dye jumps back to an A, Hand back to a B-. So it's like, if you ask this guy from CBS Sports, Lynch and Wonnum were the two worst picks in their first five rounds. But then you'll go to the one over on ESPN and it'll be the exact opposite. Like, you know,
they don't mean anything. I think a lot of people kind of said the same things when the Vikings used, you know, a third round pick on Danielle Hunter.
I think it was third.
And because he had 4 sacks in his whole career at LSU, and people are like, who is this guy? Why are you using a third round pick on him? And actually, DJ Wonnum, a lot of people have compared him to Danielle Hunter. I don't think that's very fair, but a lot of his measurables and testing numbers are very comparable. His arms, you know, they both have very long arms, and they're both kind of chiseled. No one's as chiseled as Danielle Hunter.
Nobody.
But, nobody. And then the James Lynch pick, I didn't have a problem with it because I think I think I saw that he was the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, so I think that kind of has to mean something. And I think he had 13 sacks as a defensive tackle, and I know he played 3-4 and some 4-3, so I didn't mind that pick at all. I think once you get past like the first 3 rounds, giving low grades to the picks in the final 4 rounds is kind of just shooting fish in a barrel, unless it's like a punter or a kicker, and you're like, what are you doing?
Well, and KJ Osborne is another guy that I've seen some scouts love,
yeah. Some people love him, yeah.
And it's, you know, you just never know until they actually hit the field. And the sad part is we won't probably know for a long time, because normally these guys go into rookie camp and you hear immediately who's sticking out at rookie camp, whether there's any surprises, if the guys who...
They're gonna have virtual rookie camp.
Right, virtual.
May
I'm
8th.
sure we'll really be able to figure out who's sticking out in those virtual.
They're all gonna be on Zoom. They're gonna be in their living rooms working out.
Are they gonna put? Are they gonna put
shake weights,
iPads on tackling dummies, and then like?
Yeah.
So normally you get to start to figure out pretty early on where these guys are at and who's better than the other one, but we might not find out until a month before the season starts. You know, it might just be we're throwing all 90 guys for the first time into the facility, and we're just gonna see who makes the cut.
Yeah, and a report came out today that the NFL season might not start until October 15th, so that's fun.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's all but official at this point that like college football is going to be in the spring. They're going to play a spring season. That's pretty much.
Well, yeah, because you can't make them come back and not have the students come back.
You can't have players if the students aren't going to be there, right. And if the NFL is going to push things back, then unless you want to pay the players, but college coaches are never going to do that. No.
So we mentioned the undrafted free agents. The other big thing that happened this weekend with the Vikings was them missing out on Trent Williams.
Yes.
They were apparently in the running for him on Friday. They were pretty close to actually getting a deal done with him, and then a report came out, I believe it was from, you know, Ian Rappaport of NFL Network, saying that
fake news radio.
Yeah.
According to Trent Williams.
That Williams shut down a deal to the Vikings that he didn't want to play. He'd rather not play for the Vikings,
Even though he'd rather not play here.
Even though there were reports that he would have gotten an extension from the Vikings, which it's no guarantee that he's going to get an extension from the 49ers, a team that acquired him for, I believe, I don't have the deal in front of me, but I think it was like a
third and
fifth
a sixth or something like that.
I think it was like a fifth this year, and then a third next year.
I know there was a third in it. One was this year, one is next year. I don't remember what the later pick was, and I don't remember which was in which draft.
That's totally something the Vikings could have afforded.
Oh, yeah.
And probably wouldn't have any problem parting ways because Rick Spielman could have got like 17 more picks before next year anyways. So that kind of leads me to believe that maybe Trent Williams didn't want to play for the Vikings.
He definitely didn't want to play here. That's to me. To me, you got to look at some of these reports and look at common sense. Like what incentive does Ian Rappaport have to say that Trent Williams doesn't want to play for the Vikings if that's not something that he's actually been told? And look at it from the other side. What does Trent Williams have to gain from denying it? Everything. Like, what makes Trent Williams look good if he says that he doesn't want to play in Minnesota? But if he backs it up and says, oh, no, I never said that, well, now it's, so it makes sense for Trent Williams to say that he never said it. What doesn't make sense is for Ian Rappaport to report something that never happened, or for him to even be told from a legitimate source something like that didn't actually happen. It just makes no sense.
As we both know, the sources are usually the agents.
Yeah.
There's that, and Ian Rappaport did get wrong that the Bills acquired Antonio Brown, so he did get that. He's gotten things wrong in the past, but yeah, I would put him up there with the Schefters and the Pelliceros or whatever, and the Glazers as people to believe over most people. But I don't think I'm disappointed that the Vikings didn't get Trent Williams because they got Ezra Cleveland, and he could maybe turn out to be a solid left tackle, and he'll be cheaper, and they can have him for longer and younger and all that stuff. But it would have been nice to get someone like Trent Williams to just plug in there and know that he's probably gonna be a very good left tackle for you.
Well, yeah, I mean, it all depends, right? Like if Ezra Cleveland comes out and looks solid
a lot of time
right
to
away.
practice that.
What's that?
You got a lot of time to practice that.
Yeah, that's true.
It's gonna get really confusing when people are writing and talking about Cleveland and Minnesota, and you're like, well, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about the tackle or the team?
Yeah, I'm just gonna go with Ezra or EC.
Yeah.
EC the OT.
Easy. Big Ez.
Yes. But yeah, if Ezra Cleveland ends up blowing us out of the water on year one, or even if by year 2, year 3, he looks like a guy who's going to stick around the league for 10 years, then it's going to end up being a good decision. If he comes in and he ends up being another Pat Elflein, where we thought, oh yeah, this guy's going to come in and he's going to be able to...
Matt Khalil.
Yeah, but Matt Khalil's even worse because he was such a high pick, but... I guess it all depends on Cleveland, because we'll forget about Trent Williams real quick. Plus, we don't even know what Trent Williams really has in him anymore. Let's be completely honest. Guys like this who aren't necessarily playing the game because they love the game, when they're off for 2 years, like, what is he doing? Like, now he's been in quarantine, and even before that he was off for an entire season. Like, and this guy clearly, and there's nothing wrong with that, but surprise, surprise, a lot of these football players wouldn't be playing football if they weren't getting paid millions of dollars. So if Trent Williams is now about to get paid all of his money and he wasn't even playing in the first place, how good is he once? How and what it comes down to with some of these older guys is how much are they willing to work to keep that skill, right? Like Tom Brady works harder than everybody else in the league, and that's why he continues to play into his 40s. Not everybody's like that. So how hard is Trent Williams?
Very few.
Right. How hard is Trent Williams going to work to maintain that Pro Bowl quality play? Who knows how long it'll last. So, but at the end of the day, if Ezra Cleveland flames out and ends up not starting one game in Minnesota because he was never good enough, then Trent Williams was going to be better than that.
We'll see. They'll probably be maybe they'll be linked. For
possible.
Ezra Cleveland's entire career. But I mentioned in the beginning we are brought to you by BetOnline.ag. So with currently no NBA, NHL, or Major League Baseball, you might think there's nothing to bet on. Well, you'd be wrong. Our exclusive partner, BetOnline, still has hundreds of events, games, and props to wager on. From their online casino to poker and blackjack, they're bringing Vegas to you. You're missing the NFL? No problem. BetOnline has live, daily Madden NFL 20 simulations you can bet on. You can still bet on TV shows like Survivor, Big Brother, American Idol. You can bet on stock prices and even the Nathan's Hot Dog Eating Contest. It's all open 24 hours a day and all online. Go to betonline.ag and use promo code BLUEWIRE, which is all one word, to join today and receive your new welcome bonus. BetOnline, your online wagering solution. And this week we have a brand new sponsor known as Blue Chew.
Yes.
So, bear with me now. Okay, so guys, you're looking to last longer and go a few extra rounds? Go to BlueChew.com. BlueChew.com has the first ever chewable that brings your performance in the bedroom to another level. They've got the same active ingredients that are in Viagra and Cialis, so you know they work. And since they're chewable, they work faster. So you can take them anytime, day or night, even on a full stomach. Plus, you don't need to go to the doctor's office or spend time waiting in the pharmacy line to get them. Blue Chew's online physician is free of cost, and once approved, your order ships straight to your door in discreet packaging. So here's a great deal for you guys. Visit BlueChew.com and get your first order free when you use the promo code BLUEWIRE. Once again, that's one word, BLUEWIRE. Just pay $5 shipping. Again, that's BLUE Chew.com and use the promo code BLUEWIRE. All
Do they
right.
have a female version of those? I feel like my wife needs it more than I do.
Oh boy. We might need to start a different podcast for that one. So we'll just stick to the Vikings today. Yeah, we'll do Bleeding Purple After Dark some other time. All right, let's get to the... Speaking of Blue Chew, let's get to the big question this week.
Nice. Nice, that was good.
This should just be sponsored by Blue Chew, really.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Do you feel worse? Do you feel better or worse about the Vikings' chances in 2020 after this year's draft?
Well, I think...
Or has anything not changed at all?
I think I feel better by default. Before the draft started, we badly needed an offensive tackle. We badly needed defensive back help. We needed help on the defensive line. We needed help everywhere, and we needed depth. And the draft provided an unknown amount of all of those things, right? Like, we got better at defensive back. We got better at offensive line. We got better on the defensive line. But we don't know how much better. We don't know how much more depth we added. So, yeah, I would say by default I feel better because we needed so many things. But because it was a draft and not already proven commodities, we can't feel that much better because we really don't know how much we've been helped.
Yeah, there's certain areas I feel like you better about because now they actually have depth at positions like cornerback and receiver. I'm still a little worried about cornerback because the guys they got coming in are rookies, and with the pandemic affecting everything, cornerbacks already have a difficult time
Especially
getting
summer.
up to speed. Yeah, in the NFL, I think Mike Hughes was like the anomaly or whatever, being able to play a decent amount of time in his first year. Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. I
No
forgot.
problem. I'm always here to be the Debbie Downer.
But, maybe these guys can surprise some people. But, in the past, also, Mike Zimmer, not a fan of playing rookies a whole lot. So we'll see with that.
Will this year.
Yeah, he'll have to. Because they don't really have money guys. And this is football. Guys are going to get hurt. So he's going to have to play guys. I'm still a little worried about, who they're going to play at guard, because they got rid of Josh Klein, and they waited until the 7th round to draft a Division II guard.
Well, I guess that begs to question what they do with Riley Reef next. I guess is kind of
right. So yeah, that's part of it. Moving him inside or having Pat Elflein fight for it. Do they bring back Josh Klein at a cheaper deal? Because I know that's still, a possibility.
Do you cut Riley Reef and then use that money to maybe go and sign a guard who gets cut from another team?
Right. So those are some questions I still have. Maybe I think they've got some candidates for and the safety depth too. We still don't even know if Anthony Harris is returning. He hasn't signed his franchise tender. They want him, or he wants a long-term deal, and they haven't been able to agree on anything yet. So
there's no way we pay Harris. I don't see it happening. I know that it's getting reported.
You don't think they'll give him a give him a contract? What about just the franchise tag? He'll just play on
the
that. The
franchise tag to me is the worst case scenario. We have this money already set away for 2020, 2021. We've already put it on the books technically. If we can get it off the books, it's a bonus. We can go and use that money to spend elsewhere. But I just don't see them strapping Harris to this team for the foreseeable future. Yep. If they do, then Harrison Smith fans need to start seriously worrying about his status on the team going forward after this year, because Harris is younger and Harrison Smith is just as expensive. And so Zimmer said it himself. It is not smart to pay two safeties. He said it right there in a press conference. So I just don't see them long term for more than one season paying two safeties over $10 million a year on average. I just don't see it happening.
It just, you would think if they wanted to give him a long term deal, it would have happened already, because the Vikings are usually pretty good about just getting that stuff done and over with so they can figure out stuff in front of them. But that hasn't happened yet. So that'll be something to watch over the next couple of weeks. I know Dalvin Cook and the Vikings they're about to probably restart their negotiations for an extension. Which
now that the draft's over, that makes sense.
Will probably happen because they didn't draft a running back and they didn't sign an undrafted free agent. So as many of you guys who think that Vikings aren't going to give Dalvin Cook an extension and they're just going to let him go, that's not going to happen. They're going to give him an extension. You guys are going to be pissed because they're paying a running back, but their offense is built around a running back. It's not, and it never does. No. This is the Vikings. They've done this before. Spielman and Brzezinski are very good at this stuff. They're not going to give him a contract that's going to just destroy the team in the future.
When I saw Christian McCaffrey's contract, that pretty much to me said Dalvin's is as good as signed, because they structured McCaffrey's exactly how the Vikings are going to structure Dalvin's. I think Christian McCaffrey is playing this upcoming season at $7 to $8 million, and if you remember, the number that I saw, I think it was like a month or two ago now, was $6 million was the number that the Vikings are going to have to get to for this year. So if McCaffrey
this year,
was $7 or $8 million, then Dalvin getting him down to $6 makes perfect sense. And then you expand it as you get into year 3, and then the dead money pretty much cuts off after year 3, making it essentially a 3-year deal where you're able to then rework it or cut him and start to cut your losses. And that's exactly how the Panthers set up Christian McCaffrey's. I expect Dalvin's to be the exact same, except bring the money down $2 to $3 million per year, and you're going to land at where Dalvin's at.
Yeah, there were so many people during the past couple of weeks that were saying, they can just draft a running back this year and play him with Madison, because look at 2017, they did it with Jerick McKinnon and Latavius Murray, and I'm like, yeah, that doesn't happen. They ran the ball like 500 times.
Yeah.
Like that's why they had a lot of yards. It wasn't because those guys were elite, and you don't need any. You can put any running back there. So
you can do it, but you're just not going to be like. If the Vikings were planning on doing that, then they're building their team differently. They're probably not cutting Stephon Diggs, because you don't know that you can trust a rookie running back and Madison.
They traded him, okay?
Yeah.
They didn't cut Stephon Diggs.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm fired again.
Did you see all the Stephon Diggs stuff? Him hanging out with his brother and everything. So excited for his opportunity.
No.
Coming up in the NFL.
I mean, I would be excited for my brother too.
He's on the PR campaign though of like, oh, I'm a great guy. Like, I don't do anything wrong. Like, I don't know why anyone can be mad at me.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he's been doing that. Yeah. So I'm looking at McCaffrey's deal right now, and the Panthers, they can get out of it after 3 years, and they'll only have around like $8 million in dead cap.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And the first year is how much? Like $8 million, $7.5, $8 million on the first year against the cap.
Yep. And then the next two are only like 12.5.
That's what I'm saying. So that's when I saw that. I'm like, Dalvin comes in at $6 million for the first year, just like we've been told already, and then you bloat him up to like $10 million for 2 years, and then he's cuttable after that. That's
what you do. You put all the guaranteed money in the front, and then you put the big cap hits in the back, and give yourself an out. This is what the Vikings are smart. They know how to do this.
They're going to do that same thing, and it's just not even going to be that big of a deal. And he's totally worth it for that.
Yes, he is. I'm sorry, he is one of the best running backs in the league. The Vikings do not have a good offensive line. If you watched any Vikings games last year, you could tell that very easily. I know, Alexander Madison came in and he had some good carries or whatever, but Alexander Madison is good too.
Mm-hmm.
But as a backup.
Yes.
And he's good in that role when after Dalvin Cook has, just gashed the defense and tired them out, Madison comes in and just pounds the rock. So Dalvin Cook is worth it. His injury history, not the greatest, but the Vikings also, know that his injuries, he doesn't have a history of those specific injuries. He never really had knee injuries or anything like that. He played 14 games last year and he touched the ball 300 times.
Look, I hate to be like old get off my lawn guy, but like when you throw all the analytics aside and everything else, have you ever
watch him play?
Watch him play. They are playing with the best in the world when it comes to football and the best athletes in the world, and he makes them look silly a lot of times. There's not that many people who do that. He does that. Randy Moss did that. Like guys like Christian McCaffrey does. There aren't Adrian Peterson did that. There just aren't that many guys who can do that. And if you can watch a game and say Madison could do the same thing, then you're not watching.
You're out of your mind.
Either that or you're like my wife when she just has given up on even making sense. It's just all about winning the argument. That's what it comes down to, because if you watch games, you can he is so much better than all the other backs in the league, including Madison. You put Madison back there, and you had a great comparison earlier where we went with the two backfield right before Cook got here. That's what it would be. It'd be a lot of average runs for 3 or 4 yards, and guys would get hit, and then they'd fall down, and then you'd say hut again. Dalvin, he gets hit, he doesn't fall down, he jukes. Guys are going this way and that way. It's just different watching him play.
We don't remember any memorable runs from 2017 season where McKinnon or Murray had like this amazing run. We were like, oh man, you remember that? Like, now they're not here. So obviously the Vikings didn't think they played that great because they're gone.
That reminds me. So when we first signed Murray, we didn't have Dalvin yet, right? So let's say we're going to sign Dalvin for $6 or $7 million. When we signed Murray, I bet he had to have been $4 to $5, $6, $7-ish million, right around there. And I'm not saying that was his max cap or that was his
well, he was a starter with the Raiders.
That's what I'm saying. Before. He came here to start for us, and then we drafted Dalvin because he fell to us in the draft because of his off the field issues. So Murray would have been.
It was 3 years, $15 million.
So he was $5 million a year. So we're about to sign Dalvin for $6 million first year, and then $10 million for 2 years after that. Like, that's not that big of a difference.
People don't think Dalvin is worth that much more
than
Latavius Murray.
Exactly.
Come on.
Exactly.
Come on.
I mean, when you look at the actual contract and the way that it all breaks down, that's why when I saw the Christian McCaffrey deal, the Dalvin one was as good as signed, because I said this is nothing. Like, if you have to pay a really good quarterback, it costs you $30 million. Like, we can get one of the top 3 running backs in the entire NFL on our roster for $6 million this year.
Not even like really good. Like, if you're decent, like Teddy Bridgewater's making, I think, like 20 million, 25 million next year.
And who do you think's going to help their team more, Teddy Bridgewater or Dalvin Cook?
Oh, I don't know about that, actually, because Teddy Teddy is good at winning, but yeah.
Teddy's good,
But-
and Teddy's good, and
He's going to make that team better, but yeah.
He's gonna be good. He's gonna be good with Carolina, and he's a really good
offense
leader.
is going to be built around Christian McCaffrey. It's not going to be built around Teddy Bridgewater.
That's
Just like it's
exactly
going to
my
be built
point.
around Dalvin Cook.
If they make
not
the playoffs,
Cousins.
it'll be because of Christian McCaffrey, not because of
Yeah.
Teddy Bridgewater.
All right, so that'll do it for this episode. Tune in on our next episode. We'll have a pretty big guest.
Yes.
Shout out to Blue Chew. To go over the Vikings
gonna
draft
be
picks
reoccurring,
and see if this person thinks they did a good job. I'm gonna go ahead and venture a guess, say yes. So get excited about that interview. It's a well-known person within the Vikings community, within the draft community. So just make sure to tune in there. But that's going to do it for us. Make sure to head to Twitter and follow the show at Bleeding Podcast. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to go check out Eric's stuff over at MinnesotaSportsFan.com. Go check out some Viking stuff at thevikingage.com. And until next time, we will talk to you later.
See you, fam.